have a 2-meter pteranodon hanging in my house, so naturally, I wanted to make a T-Rex too. And to do it, I'll be using the brand new Qidi Tech Q1 Pro. This project took nearly a month and hundreds of hours of printing. Let's get into it and see how the new printer is. Right out of the box, this printer tells you everything you need to do to get started on screen with menus and prompts. As long as you follow all the steps, there shouldn't be any issues. Qidi listened to some feedback about their spool holder being on the back, and the new holder comes out to the side. It's not great, but it is accessible. The printer shipped with 20 grams of test filament. If you think you know what sensor this is, comment now before watching ahead. You might be surprised at what it actually does. I heated the extruder up to 220 degrees Celsius and fed the filament through. After that, I ran input shaping. Probably don't try to do this while your kids are sleeping at night. Jeez. This printer poops and wipes on these little pads, which makes me think there might be an AMS unit in the future. That would be really awesome to see, Qidi. The leveling and Z offset are all completely automatic, and the printer does a little dance too. Once the leveling is complete, I looked through the default models. At first I was going to print a benchy, until I saw this cool first layer test. It's less than 20 grams, so it'll work, and I wanted to see how clean and even a single layer could be after just the auto calibration. I'm not sure what this little blob was, but I didn't see it pop up again since this. Listen to this. Oh yeah, I was super impressed with this test. There are very slight visible lines here and there, but they're not actually delaminated, and it's a pretty super solid auto level and Z offset function. With the test out of the way, I hopped onto Cults 3D and went over to Inhuman Species page. While the printer was sent to me by Qidi, I bought these files with my own money. I'm not sponsored, but his dinosaur fossil models are the best I've ever seen, and I back them completely. Go and check them out. There are 323 individual files in total. Unbelievable and daunting. The black parts are all Elegoo Rapid PLA Plus, and a few of the parts here are Overture Matte PLA in blue and also a generic PLA in white. I printed everything at 0.16mm layer height. Alright, time to show you guys what this sensor actually does. There's a print in progress right now. I'm gonna pinch the filament feeding in to stop it from going. And boom. If you guessed the filament tangle sensor, you are correct. Some people might think that isn't that necessary, but in the event of a tangle, this is a beautiful feature to have. It stops the print when it feels too much pressure, and as soon as you clear up the issue, you can resume right where you left off. Everything is printed, and wow, this thing is going to be huge. I'm also going to have a ton of this organic tree supports, now that I need to find a use for. I feel bad just throwing it away. I grabbed a knife, an awl, nippers, and some filing and sanding tools to clean up the prints. This is going to be a big chunk of the job. A soft sanding sponge worked really well, but some files were needed too. I used a pretty thick gel superglue and it was perfect as an adhesive for this project. I used about one tube this size for the whole skeleton. Printing the little teeth and keeping them organized was going to be hard, so I kept them on a wide brim until it was time to glue them all in small sections. The model is made in a closed mouth position, and I might alter it later to be open, but for now this is fine. Tyrannosaurus rex are famous for their tiny little arms, and these little bones were too small and I accidentally mixed them all up before I could glue them together. So I just reprinted them all as one part each to make things easier. I started to glue together the bones of the feet and legs, before remembering that I broke off a piece of the skull. Here's a velociraptor skull to show what the bone is supposed to look like. I glued in some bamboo skewers, shaved them down, and then I built up the shape with some of this Liquitex modeling paste. Once it dries, it can be sanded into shape. Not too bad. The tail had these little bones going all the way down the underside that were hard to get into order towards the tip as they got smaller and smaller. Alien fans probably know this, but the sternum and the adjacent bones look exactly like The shape of the ribs makes them kind of hard to print cleanly with supports, so I had to sand and file them to get them smooth. Once fixed in place, the full ribcage is a thing of beauty. I assembled as many large chunks as I could before moving on to the next step. And check out this awesome finish I just happened to stumble upon. Here are the ingredients: Liquitex modeling paste, some black paint, brown paint, and water. I'm using really thin paints, but if you don't, you're going to need to add more water. Mix it together until it's about the consistency of eggnog. Not only does this coating smooth layer lines, it adds a slight rough texture and dries super matte and also really durable. The only issue you have to be careful about is getting any of it on the connection points. It means it's going to get in the way of the joint. I had to clean up the joint from the backbone to the neck, and it was not going to be strong enough, so I ended up drilling and reinforcing the connection with a bamboo straw. And now it's probably the strongest joint in the whole skeleton. The T-Rex skeleton needs to be supported, so I got some 9.5mm stainless tube, measured it and cut it to length. A fiber reinforced Dremel cutting wheel makes pretty quick work of this. I also modeled and printed some mounts for the bottom of the pipes. Okay, this is way bigger than I thought. Let's make a base. I set up the dinosaur and I traced a minimal organic shape on paper. And then I was able to transfer that to some 12mm plywood. I cut it out with a jigsaw and rounded over the edges with a router. I marked out the holes before drilling and sanding. Before the grand reveal, let's talk about this printer. The spool holder is bouncy. The acrylic lid gets a little bit scraped by the PTFE tube. The Wi-Fi dongle that comes installed is Wi-Fi 6 protocol according to Qidi, which is why it didn't work with my router. There is a lot of screws to remove, but if you take the back panel off, it's easy enough to swap out the USB. I happen to have another one lying around that's compatible with my older router. It's something to be aware of, but you might have more up-to-date network tech than I do. There are another couple quirks. Some people might not like the wasted filament and time spent purging the nozzle and leveling. It takes a good 5 minutes to get the print started with the default settings. The bed is also a little harder to get in the right spot since there's only one little lip at the back middle. All those quirks are really nothing in my opinion compared to how much I love this printer so far. I have about 250 hours of printing time on it, and I really haven't had many issues. I had a partially clogged nozzle once, and it was pretty easy to clean out. If you're in the market for a printer like this, I highly recommend it, but you can check it out for yourself by following my link in the description. I'll post some other links to the materials that I used in this video as well. The links are affiliate links, so clicking on them helps me out, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. If you want to support the channel even more, you can check out my Patreon page and join these awesome people who help me bring out these projects. Shout out to my newest Patreon supporters, Richie Fender, Sabi Hobby, and Ray. I hope you enjoyed the video. Go create something, and I'll see you on the next build. I need to find somewhere to put this thing now.